And welcome back to my channel. So this is part 3 of our mean stack auth series, and right, we have already completed two parts in our mean stack project where we have completed these two parts. The part 1 where we have seen the setup of the project, and in the part 2 we have completed about the roles controller. Okay, so this is the part 3 where we will be focusing on what we have started the series for, that authentication, right? So that is what we are going to target in this particular video. Okay, so let me just give you a recap like what we have completed till now. So if you see here, right, so we have your roles controller created, and we also have created the models here, which is role and user. Okay, and let me show you also in the MongoDB compass that in the roles table, right, we are able to see the record what we have added as a admin. But if you see in the role in the user, right, there is no data yet. Okay, so in this today's video we are going to add data to this particular collection. Okay, so this collection will receive data upon once we register a user. So that's why we will focus first on registering a user in our MongoDB database. So first let's go ahead and let's try to create our routes. Okay, so for that we have this folder here, right, routes created. So let's click on this plus and we can create our auth.js. Okay, so in this we have to create the route, right? So for that we have to do few steps. So we have to first import express from express. Okay, and this guy has something called as router. So we'll say const router equals to express dot router. Okay, now once we have this router, right, this router has all those methods like put, post, get, and delete. So we have to do it for register first. So we are doing for register, so this will be router dot post. Okay, so this will be a post endpoint, and we will be doing something like this, that this is register. Okay, so we are registering a user, and here we will have our callback method which will be coming from our controller. Correct, so this is our handler. So let's try to create the handler just to show that it is working or not. So we'll go here in this controller and let's add our new controller, which is auth.controller.js. Okay, and now here we just need to create a dummy one. We will not be creating the logic, but let's create a dummy. So we'll say export const register. Okay, and in this we will have the request comma response comma the next middleware, and yeah, that's it. So this is what our logic will be sitting here. Okay, so we have to import this in your auth.js route. Okay, so let's call that. So the name, okay, first of all, this is not done, right? So once we have created, so yeah, we have to export. This is the important. So once you export this, then only you can import. So make sure you have an export here. Okay, now if you go in the auth.js, you can just call it like register. Okay, and this thing you have to make sure that this is .js. So this doesn't comes up with the IntelliSense, so you have to make sure you have to add it explicitly. Okay, .js. Okay, so once you have added, let's save all the files. Now once we have auth.js, so this route is registered now. So we need to create the middleware also in the index.js. So we'll go here and let's create that as well. So we'll say here app.use. Okay, and inside that we will create api slash auth slash. Okay, or it's fine because we are using slash there, and this guy will be coming from where, right? So as we have created the auth route, so this is created, the route is created, but we have to export it, right? So we can say here export default, and we can give the name router. Okay, so once you have exported it from here, now you can import it. So to import it, let's go on the top. You can just copy the same and let's paste it below. Now this will be coming from auth.js and the name will change to auth route. Okay, the same thing we will use it just below here. So whenever this is going to be my at the routing, so this will be auth route. Okay, so now that's how my application will start. So my API will hit here API slash auth slash, where is that, yeah, register. So once it hits here, so this will call this particular handler, which is register, where we will be writing our logic. Then let's see whatever the models what we have in the users, all those have to be written here inside this register. So in the user model, right, we need a first name, last name, username, email, password, profile image is by default there. We have an is admin and we have a role. Okay, so all this parameter we have to pass. So let's go in the auth control and let's try to create our logic. Okay, so what we will do here first, right? So first we will try to get the user, right? So because whenever the user is registering, he will register himself as a user. Okay, so there will be only one admin and whoever is trying to register in my application, those people will be registered as a user. And later on, if they want to get an admin access, so they have to request it via email, or they can request it in our Angular application. So we will create that user interface later. Okay, so let me first check whatever roles we have in the we have here in the ODB. So we have currently only one role. So I'll go here in the Postman. I will try to add a new role. So this is what our API endpoint is. And let me show you that our API is already running, which is npm start. So I just did that npm start and it is already running. Okay. So let me go here and just try to hit this. Okay. So once I hit it, I got a role created. And now if I go in the MongoDB, if I refresh it, let me check. So now I can see I have one more role, which is user. Okay. Now, how I will be using that. So what I will do, right, whenever I am trying to register a user, first I'll say const role is equals to, okay, so I will say await, as I'm awaiting, because whatever operation we do in MongoDB, all are asynchronous. So this is await, so this has to be async. So let me make this method as async. Okay, and now I will say async role. So can you see I have imported it from the top, from model slash role. Just make it as role.js or else it will throw error. Okay, and now I will say role dot, okay, I want to find role dot find. Okay, so here you can put your filter that I want to check for the role where my role is user. Okay, which is just we have created, and now it will take inside this body. Okay, that's it. So now next step is that we have to create the user. So I'll say const new user is equals to new user. Can you see we have this model user? Okay, imported from the top. Let's make it as .js. So this is again coming from our model, which is this guy. Okay, now let's go in here and let's try to add all the request body, whatever it is required. Okay, so the first thing is, let me just take a look what all things we required here. So we required first name, last name, user, email. So let me add all for you guys, and then maybe I'll just do it fast forward. Okay. All right. So I can see I have all the required fields which is required for me to create a user, but there is one catch here. So in the roles, right, I'm not adding this as from the body, because I will be directly adding it as a role which I will be just getting it. So the by default role which will be given to the user is user role. Okay, who will try to register in my application. Okay, so once this is done, so we can say await, we can say new user, which is on the top dot save. So we have a save method which will save this record in our MongoDB. And once this is saved, right, we can just send the response. So for sending the response, right, we have all those here created. So we'll just copy this one and paste it there. Okay, so copy this and we can just change the message as user register. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so once we did that, so the user will get registered in our application. So let's go ahead and try to test this endpoint. So we have the postman already ready. So we will go and create one more request here. So let's add a request and let's give the name as a create user, or we can say register user, and this will be a post API slash auth slash register. Okay, and we have to pass in the body. So let's go in the raw, change it to JSON, and we have to write all the body which is required for registering the user. So I can copy this directly and just paste it here, and let's change all of them to this. Okay, this will change to my last name. Okay, username will be, I can take any. Email I will choose as, okay, password I will take a very easy one. So this will be just 1 2 3 4 5, and roles there is no requirement of this, so we are not going to pass it. So this is the mandatory field which will be going from your what we say that UI from client to the backend. Okay, that's it. So this is the 5 important field which we will be also creating it in Angular. So once we have this ready, you can click on send, and once you click on send, I can see user registered successfully. Okay, and once this is registered, we can check that in the MongoDB. Now if you go in the users table, so you can see there is one entry created for you. Okay, and the best thing here is, right, it has already added few records for us, which is the profile image. By default, what we have added, it has added is admin as false, and I can see one role here which has an array of object ID, and which is saying that this is the role ID. And if you see this role ID in this role, so just see this is 33FF. So if you go in the role, right, so we have 33FF, which is equivalent to the role as user. So which means this user Shashi Yadav has a user role. Okay, and this is the password. But I can see a problem here, right? As we have discussed the same when we were doing the things in Auth series in C sharp, okay, in .NET. So that this is not a good practice to like store the password like this. So we have to encrypt this password. Okay, so how we are going to do that in mean stack projects? So let's go ahead and see it. All right. So to do that encryption of the password, so we need a package whose name is bycrypt. Okay, so we are going to install a package. Okay, so the package is bcrypt.js. So let's go ahead and add it. So once we add that package, so things will be very much easy for us to do. Okay, so we don't need to write our own encryption algorithm and whatnot. All right, so let's go. Let's open up a terminal here and let's go in our API project by saying cd space API and let's do npm install. Okay, and let's hit enter. So this is the package which we are going to use, bcrypt.js, and once we have added it, so now we can use it in our project. So can you see this is added successfully in our package.json as well. Now let's go in the auth controller.js. So now we are not going to store the same password. So before storing this password, we will try to encrypt the password and then we'll try to store it. Okay, so how we are going to use that? So first of all, we need to import the package. Okay, so let's go here and write it. So this is what we will do, import bcrypt from bcrypt.js. Okay, and now just below this we will say that let's create a salt for it. So let's say const salt is equals to your, again this is a asynchronous, so we'll say await bcrypt dot generate salt. Okay, so we can just put it as 10. You can give any random number there. And now we have to hash the password. So we'll say const hash password will be equal to, again, this is await and okay, sorry. So cry crypt dot hash. So this guy requires two things. First your string and then your salt. So we'll pass our password, which is request dot body dot password, and the next one will be the salt what we have created, what we have generated actually on this line number 7. So once we will pass these two lines, then this will hash our password, and this hash password we have to store whenever the user is registering. Okay, so let's paste it here, hash password, and that's it. So just by this 3 line of code, now you're able to hash your password in mean stack project. Just imagine how we were able to do the same in .NET. Like we have created our own algorithm and all those logics like the helper class and all those things. So here it is very easy. Just by 3 lines of code, we are able to hash our password. Now let me just do a demo here. So let me add a new user, John Doe. Email will be John30 and password I'll keep as same. And I'll change this to john@gmail.com. And once I click on send, I can see again user registered successfully. And now if I go in the MongoDB Compass, let's refresh the schema. And now can you see, right? So here my password got encrypted. So now I cannot see the password. It's 1234. So this is the best practice what each one of you follow to encrypt your password. Okay. So this is done. Like now we are able to successfully register in your application in the mean stack project. And now also you can see we have again a default role, which is a user role. So whenever we do registration in our application, the default role it will be assigned to the people will be user. Okay, so now registration is done. Then how about login, right? So we have to also implement the login functionality. So to do it right, again, first we will go and create the route. So let's go in the auth.js of this route, and here we will create a login. So this will be again router dot a post call, and this will be slash login. And here we have to create the handler. So let's go and create the handler here. So we'll say const. So this should be export, okay, because we have to import it in the route. So export const login. Again, this will have request comma response comma next. Okay, and now we will write our logic of login just below it. Okay, again, this can be wrapped inside a try catch. If you feel there can be any error, so you can wrap it inside a try catch. Okay, so you can do that later. Anyway, I will be doing it for login, so you can copy the same and you can implement it for the register. Okay, so you can also do a practice for yourself. Okay, so here I will do that in try catch. So let me add a try catch. Okay, so in the catch we will be returning the status. So we'll say return response dot status will be 500, and we can just click on dot send. Something went wrong. Okay, so later in this video, don't worry that we will try to centralize this sending the response. So we will try to create like a very generic way of sending response to the user, and that we will see when we will try to see how do we optimize our code in mean stack project. Okay, So I will be taking one more part regarding that. So don't worry. All right. So now in the try catch, we will have the logic of doing the login. So how we will do, right? So we'll first say const. Okay, we'll check the user. So we'll check for the user. Again, this is a synchronous operation. So this should be a sync and this should be await. Await what? So we have to say user dot find one. Okay, again, this is a MongoDB because this user is a schema, is a MongoDB schema. So we have all this method called as find one, find, and all those. So find one what? So we want to find one email, and we'll say request dot body dot email. Okay, and now we will say dot populate. Okay, we can also check for the role if you want to see, right, if the user is logged in. So you can check that also. So I'll talk about this later once we are sending all the user to the front end. Okay, so I'll show you about a populate method in MongoDB. But before that, what we can do here, we can check, right, if there is no user. If there is no user, so we can directly return a response. So we can return a response. So let me copy this and let's return this directly. We say response 404 and we will say user not found. Okay, user not found if there is no user. Okay, but if there is a user, right, if there is a user, right, so we have just checked the email, but what about the password? But the password is hashed, right? So we have to decrypt it. So how can we do that? Like we have to compare the password. So there is something called as we can check is const is password correct. So let's create a variable const is password correct, and this will say await by crypt dot compare. Okay, so we have this compare method where it takes your first string which user will be passing and the second string will be the hashed one. Okay, so we have this request dot response, like request dot body, which is coming from the user dot password. So this guy should be equals to your user dot password. Okay, this one. So this user, so once if there is no user, then it will return the response. But if there is a user, so we want to check if this user password which is there in the MongoDB database is equal to my the request body which user is sending. Okay, if this guy is true, right, if this is true, then we can say, hey, return success, and you can say user logged in. But if it is not true, okay, but if it is not true, so we can say add this is password incorrect. If it is not true, then what we can do, we can return here like this, copy this, and we can return 400 and we can say password is incorrect. Correct, password is incorrect, but everything is okay. If everything is okay, everything is fine, then what we will do, we will try to return the response, and by saying that hey, return is success, so we can say response is 200, and we can say login success. Okay, so let's save these two changes. So once we save these two changes, now we can just go and try to validate this. Okay, just but before that, as we have created this handler, we have to use it here. So let's go in this, and now we will just call the login. So here it is updated as well. Save it, and in the index.js, yeah, this is correct, and on.js we have login. So let's try to log in now in your application and let's see if that works. Okay, okay, let's go here and let's see if our application is running fine. Yes, it says connected to database, which is it is running fine. Let's create the new request. So add a request. The name will be login user, and this will be a post call. So localhost auth slash login. Again, we have to pass a body as a raw. We can pass it as a JSON, and in this we will pass two things. First is email, and second one is password. So email was john@gmail.com, and password, I remember I kept it as 1234. Okay, so let's add the password as 12345. If I click on send, so I can see login success, right? If I try to change the password to 6, so if I click on send, I can see password is incorrect. If I make the password correct and the email ID, if I try to change John 1, there is no such password like this. If I try to send, I can see user not found. Okay, so in this way that we have successfully completed the register and login, and you can see it is actually working based on what kind of input we are trying to send. If both are correct, if I send login success, and also if you see, right, in the MongoDB, so So now we don't require this kind of password, so we can delete this record. Okay, so we don't require this anymore, so just go here and you can delete this. And now whenever we try to register a new user, so we will be encrypting the password. And see, you cannot use the same password to log in. If I try to use it, if I copy this, if I go in the postman, if I use this passwords, this should fail. Can you see password is incorrect? Okay, so you have to pass your password what you have used during the login. So it is 1 2 3 4 5. Click send, and there you go, login success. Okay, so in this way we have successfully completed about the two endpoints in the auth controller, which is register and login. Okay, so if you have any question related to these two like endpoints what we have created, you can mention them in the comment section. Any doubt, any question you have regarding the package, what is this bcrypt.js, why we used it, and all those, still if it is not clear, you can just comment down. Okay, or else you can also connect with me on Telegram or Instagram if you have any doubt related to this topic. Okay, so I will be very much happy to help you guys there. Okay, so till that time, bye bye and keep learning, guys.